Our CES 2019 coverage is made possible by SOOOO, Republic of Gamers, Arosi, EK, and Patriot. Hey everyone, I'm Andy Raffel from eTeknix.com, and while at CES 2019 we stopped by EK's suite at the Mandalay Bay. Now the first thing that they were keen to show off was their Quantum product line, which includes the Velocity CPU blocks in both Plexi and nickel acetal, also the vector blocks for the RTX 2080 series cards, again in both Plexi and acetal, while also showcasing some of their pump res combos, Vardar fans with radiators, and various fittings with tubings. It was just a nice thing of having everything in one place, showing the whole new product lineup. Also, while we were there, they were really keen to show off their Vardar X3M fans. Now, we did initially see these at Computex, but they're actually a little bit further along the way now. So these are high static pressure fans, and they are essentially the next evolution from the initial launch in 2014. They include extra features such as rubber dampeners, floating frame design, improved fan blade design, and are obviously based for low noise and high airflow. And to top it all off, they do look pretty cool as well with their addressable RGB. Now the next product that they were keen to show off was the Cryofuel Solid. Now again, we first saw this at Computex, and it does include lots of different colours. Now the main thing that they want to kind of, really shout about with these fluids is the colour stability. Now when you have a pastel type or solid type fluid, you do generally have some problem with sediment. Now from what they actually tell us, there's no kind of real sediment issues with this fluid, even when you haven't run your loop for a prolonged amount of time. So basically that means that the colour stays true because it doesn't have that issue. This also means that there's less need for draining and refilling, and obviously that keeps the cost down as well because you haven't got to buy extra unnecessary fluid. Now, while they did have all of the colours that we saw at Computex, the ones that really caught our eye were the prototypes, mainly the black one, but there was also a red and orange. Now, the black one was really cool because it's very hard to actually do, but they do believe that they are almost at the production stage for this. Now, the hardest part is actually getting the opacity right, even when it's through smaller tubing, but looking at this, it had no issue at all. Now, there was, as I say, a red and also an orange. Now, any Scottish people out there will probably agree with me when I say the orange one kind of looked reminiscent of the Iron Brew drink, but there you go. Now, I'm actually really keen to get some of these fluids in, especially the black one, just to see exactly how it would look when I've got it sort of up and running on my test bench. Now, it's all well and good showing off your products as standalone products, but obviously you want to show it off in a system. So EK were really keen to kind of push that whole ecosystem. So they did have a computer up and running, which included some of their blocks with chamfered edges, some of the new fittings, the Vector RTX blocks with the water block link, which I will be honest looked absolutely amazing, as well as the new velocity blocks and also the memory blocks. Now you may remember we have done some reviews on the thermal take memory kit that's come out recently with a memory block, and we do have to kind of put the disclaimer out there that it is more of an aesthetic standpoint than a performance standpoint, and EK have actually been doing this, well, quite a bit longer than the thermal take ones, but looking at the whole system, it looked absolutely amazing, especially with all them chamfered edges on there, and just kind of shows that once you have the whole ecosystem going, it can just look pretty premium. Now, one product that we've never actually seen from EK in the past is distribution blocks, but they were again keen to show off exactly where that's kind of heading. So what they had is the Quantum Distro PC305. So essentially we had an InWin 305 chassis with a distribution block inside. So what I actually went to show is that they're not looking at making distro blocks that are going to be specific for a chassis. They've actually gone with kind of a one-size-fits-all solution, which is actually going to be a lot better for saving on cost because they can push out kind of sheer volume of these blocks, and it just goes to show, that there is various other ways of kind of looping your system that can look pretty cool. Another cool thing that we went and looked at the EK suite was their controller hub. It's still in the early days of production, but they wanted to show that you can basically incorporate lots of EK products and control it through this hub. So essentially you can control everything from addressable RGB components. It had, I believe, 6 addressable RGB headers. You can also fit in flow meters, PWM fans and pumps, LED strips, and you can control it all through their software. Now the software is still in development at the moment and they have outsourced this to another company, but it's already starting to shape up very, very nicely. The only thing I would like changing on this hub is the fact that it uses a Molex connector. Personally, I hate Molex, so I'd rather see a SATA connector. We did feed that back to EK and it is something that they're looking into, but no promises because obviously it has to control quite a few components going into this hub. Now, another cool thing that they had is a whole range of new fittings branded as Torque, T-O-R-Q-U-E. Now, to start with, they had some fittings that had quite subtle colouring on there. So instead of having a bright blue fitting or a bright red fitting, they were actually silver, but had a really sort of faint, subtle stripe in between the two parts of the fitting. So they had blue, red, and also black. They also had different types of fittings ranging from sort of your uprights to angled fittings, and they did say that there's actually lots more to come in various colours, of course. Now, some of the latest products that have come out as of recent have been the Maximus Monoblocks with its addressable RGB, as well as a Velocity block for TR4. They were also keen to show off some of their pump res combos, which included the clear with a black ring and addressable RGB, as well as the Acetal black with a clear ring and addressable RGB. So for anyone looking to kind of, get some EK products, this would be a very good starting point. For anyone else who's wanting to sort of start on the custom loop level but is afraid of how much things will cost, EK have introduced a whole new line of products called the Classic series. Now, what they were actually doing is showcasing off a whole host of these products inside an InWin 101 chassis. The whole new range is aimed at the kind of affordability side of the market. So it's very minimalist and has kind of the no fuss approach, which obviously equals great value for money. So what they actually have is low machining costs, as well as no chamfered edges. It's, like I say, a bit of no frills, no fuss, and all of the savings that they've actually got by doing these sort of small touches are being passed directly onto the consumer. They have a CPU block, a pump res combo, a GPU block, and it all includes basic RGB, so no addressable RGB, because again, that just adds on an extra unnecessary cost. So for those looking at doing something in the custom loop world, but wanting to save a few pennies, the Classic series is definitely going to be the one for you. Next up, EK were keen to show what they were doing with some of their system integrator partners. So they've actually manufactured a PC in conjunction with Micro Center, who spec'd it up all by themselves. So this included an i7-9700K, RTX 2080, and is going to be priced at around $2,000. It was all inside the Lian Li 011 Dynamic and included a pretty cool looking distribution plate. Again, EK are definitely looking at getting into this whole distribution plate because at the moment, from what we can tell, the only people really doing it on the mainstream is Barrow, so it'd be nice to have a bit more competition in the market. For those not wanting to custom loop, obviously there's AIOs. Now, EK have the Valkyrie series. This is something that they're looking to sort of bring out to compete with the likes of Corsair, NZXT, and many other AIO manufacturers out there. Essentially what we have is a slim 240mm radiator with addressable RGB fans. They also include braided hoses, which are still very flexible, but also incorporate great build quality and materials. Now, the pump itself is actually on the block, and it's hopefully something that we're going to see soon because based on what we actually saw at CES, it looked pretty final. So hopefully it's going to go into production very soon. Sadly, no word on price and availability just yet. Now, the big thing that we saw at CES, and I mean big, is the Asus Dominus Extreme motherboard. We saw it at quite a few different places, and EK wanted to show exactly what they'd done to it. So essentially what we have here is a huge motherboard based on the EEB form factor, specifically supporting the upcoming X59 chipset. Now, this is specifically made for the Xeon W3175X processor on the LGA 3647 socket. Now, if you don't know about this processor, basically it's a batshit crazy 28-core Xeon. Yes, they're not going to sell many of them, but here's the board ready and waiting for it, and EK have a solution you know, to keep it nice and cool. So essentially what we have is a Velocity WS CPU block and a huge VRM cooling design. So I've actually felt this board with the block and the VRM block on there as well, and I'll tell you now, it weighed an absolute ton. We're actually told that the board itself, you know, isn't exactly light, but as soon as you add on these blocks, yeah, it's unbelievable. There's no word on pricing and availability as of yet, but we do believe it should be coming very, very soon, so fingers crossed. Now, the last thing is for those who are looking at tube bending. So essentially, there's kits out there from other manufacturers at the moment which are a little bit, you know, clunky, and they're plastic and they're not exactly great quality. EK believe that they have something better, and they call it the Modulus. So this comes in 3 different sizes: 12mm, 14mm, and 16mm. And essentially what they are tube bending plates. You simply screw it down, and then you can, as you heat your tubing up, put it into place and bend it. So kind of consider it a bit like a mandrel, essentially. Now, we have been told that the design of it may change ever so slightly. The grooves are meant to get a little bit deeper, and also the material may change from what you can see now to an acetal version, which will probably look a little bit better. Hopefully it doesn't scratch, you know, after using it a few times, because as we know with a device like this, it's going to be used more in kind of workshops and things like that. Hopefully you enjoyed our coverage of exactly what EK had. As you can see, there is a ton of products coming out, and some of them we are really, really looking forward to. So there you go, guys. Let us know in the comments section below which products you are looking forward to, you know, the most out of what you've seen today. Remember to check out the rest of our CES 2019 coverage, and I will see you all in the next video. See you later. Bye-bye. The hoses are braided, but still have a lot of flexibility to them while still remaining, you know, nah. Hey everyone, I'm Andy Raffel from eTeknix.com, and while at CES 2019, we stopped by the EK water booth. I can't actually wait to get some in and see exactly how it can look, especially